right, welcome to another Baseball Opps Podcast with TopVelocity. I'm your host, Brent Porcio, and we got special guest Cody Hall in here today. So I'm going to introduce them to your career, Cody, for those who don't know who you are. I still got you on the front of the website when you were still playing. Cody came to TopVelocity towards the end of his career. He had played how many years in pro ball when you got here? How many years in pro ball?
I played five years.
Okay, so 5 years in pro ball. You were I think you were a top 20 prospect in the Giants organization. Yep. You had a back injury. Your velo had gone down, and they had released you when you came in to train with me. And it was a process of rebuilding you, which was really fun and exciting because you were such a great talent. You were a 100-mile-an-hour guy, but at the time you were probably barely a 90 guy.
Yeah, 88. I think I came in here at like 87, 89.
Right. So Dr. Pat worked on your back. We got your back fixed. Then you started to really learn the methods, learn the approach. And all of a sudden it felt like overnight. I mean, it was a couple of months and you were back to upper 90s again. Yes. And then you went to Lancaster. You went into the Atlantic League. You did so well that the Giants signed you back.
Yep.
And then the next year you were with the Rays, and then you were retired at that point.
Yep.
I'm curious, maybe it puts you on the spot, but why did you retire?
Man. More of some family things. I had my son, and he wasn't always able to come up and watch me play. I was always gone. I played with whatever organization I was playing with that year, and then in the off season I would go to Venezuela, play in Venezuela, and it just came to a time where I was just ready to get the family right and come home, and I got a job in the plant.
Yeah, and you had a great career. I mean, most people would trade their left arm for your career. So you had a great career. You played college baseball at Southern University. You were drafted. Were you drafted?
Yeah, drafted in 19th round.
19th round.
2011.
How long did it take you to get to AAA?
Let's see. I got to AAA in 2015, and that's actually the same year I got called up to the big leagues. So wow. It was different for me. I was a project when I was drafted. I was a guy that threw kind of hard. Got drafted as a project. They made some adjustments with me when I got there, Instructs, and it was kind of a slower process with me. You had guys that skipped levels. Now, I put up the numbers every single year through the minor leagues. Always had a good ERA, strikeout to walk ratio. I was a closer, always did my job, but it was a slower process. I was never one of those guys that got to skip a level. I would always go from low A, get called up to high A, then I would start the next year in high A, get called up to double A, then I'd start the next year in double A, where some guys, even though when I went from low A to high A and still produced and was very dominant, some guys they'd say, oh, he's going to go to double A next year. I always went back to that wherever I left, and then I kept going from there. So it was I think it was more of a project on my side. I mean, I was a guy that didn't play high school baseball my junior and senior year, so no one really knew. I went to a small junior community college in BRCC, and then ended up signing with Southern. But, I got scouted by, we had probably 15 major league scouts a game whenever I'd pitch at BRCC. Just wasn't my time yet. I went to Southern, got drafted my junior year, decided to come back, was a starter. Started the first half of the season. My coach said, hey, look, we need you in the back end of the bullpen. We got some guys that can't pitch out the bullpen that well. They're really good starters. I told him, look, you let me start for the half of the season, I'll go back to my job in the backside of the bullpen.
Yeah, and you had some great seasons. I mean, even after coming here with us at Lancaster, you racked up a ton of strikeouts, a couple of walks.
Yeah. Most of them were intentional.
Yeah, and you were just dominant. You would sit, what was it, 98?
97, yeah. 98 sitting.
I
had some bad luck. Balls that got hit, you kind of found holes and stuff like that. But, it was just one of those things where after I trained with you, my average fastball was just way harder, and I was, 28, 30 at the time, where when I was 24, I should have been in that peak performance. I look back, I know you and I have talked about, my dad had called you back when I was first got drafted about coming here and training, but I was doing really well.
Yeah,
I didn't have no problems. Next thing you know, getting some soreness here and there. Ended up getting released, have a torn rotator cuff, got it fixed, came and trained with you, and we actually built it back stronger than I was when I first came out of college.
Yeah, I mean, your ability to throw hard was so impressive, and it didn't take long after you got hurt with us to really put it back together. I think you just learned really quick how much your lower half had basically declined from them not letting you probably lift, and then you lost the leg power, and then you got too rotational, and then when you started building your lower half back and started basically separating, and I mean, because you did it so well, what would you credit to your success when you came here to putting it back together so well? I mean, you picked it up within a couple of months. It was like a 10-mile-an-hour difference, and you became like the perfect example of it. What would you credit to your ability to put it back together so well?
Well, I mean, first off, the way you explained it. I mean, explaining it to me, I took in everything you said, and I worked my butt off. Like I said, y'all would go on lunch break, and I would continue to just stay and work and work and work. The other thing was when you started telling me these things, how to create separation, how to use my legs, how to get into my glute and not be quad dominant, I went and studied. I would go home at night after being here from 10 o'clock to about 6 o'clock at night. I'd go home and look at some of these high velocity pitchers, and I would see it. We just talked about it. I'd go and I'd see it. And another thing that I think really helped me is after I learned your method, I would go teach kids in my area. And I really believe that in teaching those kids, it helped me understand it faster. And that was a pretty cool thing. But just, I mean, it took a lot of work. It wasn't something that just happened really, really quick. It took work. It took a lot of reps, and there was things I probably could have did better, but I had a short period of time. I was one of those guys that came to you broken, and I was still trying to play, right? Yeah. So it's one thing that if I could have changed anything, it would have been come sooner. Come sooner and learn this sooner, no matter how well you're doing. It's just the health benefits. The career could have went a different way. Not saying that it went a bad way, but it could have been a longer career if I would have came sooner instead of coming broken. Yeah,
I mean, that last year you went to big league camp with the Rays. You got to face, some of the best hitters in the league, I think that was a tough year for you because you were a 1-inning guy for all those years, and then they wanted to make you a 2-3 inning guy, and they started piling innings on you, and it was just not. Unfortunately, I think you felt like you were being forced into a different mold you had always built yourself to be, and I think it got really frustrating.
Well, it was one of those things where in big league camp, like you said, I faced some good guys, and I remember when I signed with the Rays, my stepson at the time, he said, "Man, you're going to have to face Aaron Judge." And I said, "Yeah, I might have to face him, And then sure enough, we're playing the Yankees in spring training, Judge comes up to play, and I strike him out. And I got 3 or 4 missed calls from my stepson saying, I call him back. He's all excited, and
that's dope.
But it was I was a 1-inning guy in spring training. I think I threw 7 innings. I had 1 walk, 1 run. It was a solo home run, 10 strikeouts. I did really well. The coaches, we had really good conversations, before I went down to AAA. And then we had a pitcher that had Tommy John surgery. He was coming back, and at the time, Tampa was running the new opener thing, where they put a reliever in first, and then they bring the starter in the second or the third inning and let him run to the closer. Well, they called me in and said, "Look, so and so's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Have you ever thrown multiple innings before?" Well, being the competitive guy I am and how bad I want it, I don't want to tell these guys, no, I can't do that. I can only go 1 inning, 2 max. So I'm saying, yeah, let's do it. I get into the season. Like I said, every time out, I think I went 3 innings, and I wore down a little bit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was
it's
a different role.
Jump, yeah.
It was a different role. I was always good at that back end of the bullpen role. Where I just come in and let it all out for 1, maybe 2 innings. So.
Yeah, people got to understand, great career, but your time and your timing is everything. I think you remember you were telling me, they called you up 3 times to the big leagues over your career?
Twice
to the big leagues, and you said both times you I think one time you were sick or something. Like you said, you never felt really that you weren't feeling that great physically during those times.
Well, the
right?
2 times they called me up, the first time I got called up, my velocity wasn't what it was, you know, and I was always known for my velocity. I mean, that was a big thing. This guy could throw 100 miles an hour. You know, velocity wasn't where it was. I wasn't having the best year in AAA. We were in the PCL where the ball flies a lot, right? And I think I had a 3 ERA, something like that, which wasn't bad. I was going multiple innings then, but the velocity wasn't there, and that was a frustrating thing for me. It was something I couldn't. I always just, I don't know. I was a velocity junkie. You know, I loved having that good fastball, and I did well when I got called up the first time. My ERA spiked whenever I came out of my last game with bases loaded, and the next guy comes in and gives a three-run bomb. You know, so but it was a great time. And then with Miami is actually when I hurt myself. So you know, nothing to get. You got to be ready. I mean, that's
the hardest thing. Like, people don't understand. Like, this game is as much timing as it is like talent. Like, the point is, like, you could be an exceptional talent, but every time your opportunity's coming, you know, you're sick or you're not having a great career, or not career, you're not having a great year, or you're struggling with something. You know, it's never perfect. I've talked with Ryan Shemp. He played 3 years. It's kind of the same thing. It's like every time he got his opportunity, something wasn't feeling right. You know, timing's so important.
Well, we had when I was so after the Giants, I was traded to the Diamondbacks, and my girlfriend at the time, she was pregnant with my son Cannon, and we had something happen, and while we were during spring training, and it was not very good for the child. We had to go to the hospital. I was sleeping on a hospital bed in a little window area for the whole spring training. I mean, it's a lot in your head. Doctors are telling you, hey, you don't know, this baby's only 28 weeks. Yeah. We don't know if we need to take it out now. We got to keep it monitored. You got a lot on your mind. The game of baseball is mental. Yeah. And when you got other things on your mind, it's especially life or death situation, it makes it hard, right? So I go into the season and I'm struggling. And I get taken off the 40-man. Well, 3 days later, Miami calls me. They're picking me up. Well, they're like, you're going to AAA. I'm like, that's in New Orleans. That's right down the road from my house. That works. I actually get home the day my baby was supposed to be born. So I get home, and I actually tell my coach, hey, look, my son's going to be born tonight. I'm going to be late to the game, but I'll be here. I'm just not going to be here for the time for stretch. He's like, no, stay home. I was like, I'm going to be back. So I run home. The baby's born. We hang out. I say, look, I got to go play in this game real quick. I'll be back. I go back to the field. I get in so much trouble that I'm back at the field. The coach said, look, I'm going to let you throw 1 out, and then you're going to go take a shower, and you get back in your car, and you're going to go home. So I came in. I struck the first batter out. He pulls me out the game. I go shower. I go home. And he's like, stay home for 3 days, because you get days when you have a child. But I told the coach, look, I live not even an hour from here. So I'm going to get to go back home to my family every night. That didn't happen because I was called up, I think 3 days later to the big leagues. So now I'm going to Miami.
Well, once again, it's timing, man.
Well, the problem is we're on a road trip to Memphis, and I didn't bring any like collared shirts, no suits, no nothing. I thought we were going there for 3 days, coming back home. I didn't bring hardly anything. They tell me the first night there, hey, you're going to pitch. You're going to close this game out. If it's not a save situation, you're going to throw the 8th inning. If it is, you'll throw the 9th or whatever. Comes to the end of the game, it's a save situation, phone rings, I'm stretching in the 7th inning. Phone rings in the 8th inning, it's not my name. So I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm walking back to the locker room after the game, I didn't get to pitch. I'm supposed to pitch. Manager calls me in the office. Sorry we didn't pitch you tonight, but we weren't allowed to. You're going to the big leagues. My first thought is not excitement. My first thought is, I don't have a suit. I don't have a collared shirt. I don't have anything to wear on this plane. So I fly to Miami. I get my bag shipped to Miami. The first thing I do when I get there, I go to Men's Warehouse and buy me some suits just so I can have them, So, you never know. You never know in the minor leagues. You never know. Like I said, I was a guy that hit every step. Every step. No matter how dominant I was, I hit every step. You have some guys that get the high A now. They might have a 4 ERA. and they get the phone call to go to the big leagues.
Right.
You never know. You just got to be ready at all times.
That's what I'm saying. Like, timing, luck, whatever you want to call it, it has a lot to do with your opportunities in this entire game. So that's why you always got to be ready. I tell guys, you always got to be ready. Right here, you always got to be ready.
100%.
And the other thing you did really well is I always say there's not many guys that leave Top Velocity and get better. A lot of guys leave Top Velocity and they got to come back. We got to plug them back in. We got to fix all their breakdown. We got to get them back in the routines. You were a guy, when you would leave, you'd come back better. What would you credit that to? What did you do well when you left that allowed you to keep improving?
So I brought me a little King of the Hill plate, and I brought me some med balls with me. On top of that,
your wedge and
my wedge, my wobble chair. It was things that were very important to me. I had a vibration platform I brought. I mean, I brought 2 suitcases full of just equipment that I used. I knew that I needed to continue to work on this, and to that, I train guys now, and you've seen it a lot. You train them in the off season, they go into season, and they kind of lose it a little bit. Well, I watch some of the guys I train, my high school guys, and we train them, and at the beginning of the season, their velocity's up, they're throwing well. As the season goes, you see it start creeping down. Well, you can relate that to them wearing out. No, they're not staying on their med ball throws. That was one thing I did. I brought this stuff with me, not just sit in my locker. I went out every day. Well, not every day, every other day, and I would do my drills. I made sure that I got to the field early, did my wobble chair, my wedge, my mobility, then went out with the team and stretched. Anytime I picked up a baseball, I focused on my craft, on what I was trying to do. I tell guys, your catch partner might hate you, but every time I threw, I made sure to sit in that hip, stay in my glutes, drive, get the front foot down, and get the ball out. Well, guess what? It comes out kind of hot. And sometimes your catch partner's like, whoa, I'll just pick a catch partner that throws hard. That's what I did. So I just continued to work on what I did. And the guys I train now, I tell them, we got to stay on this. Then they come back and say, Cody, look, we need a little bit of work. All right, I look, their velo's down a little bit. We go to the med ball throws, their med balls are down a little bit, right? So now we go in there, we get it back up. Look, you've got to stay on this. You can't just do this once and then think there's no miracle pill you can take just to make this thing happen.
It's such a misconception. And obviously the guys like you, Eric Orzi's another one, that Keegan Gillis is another one, guys that get better when they leave here, they're just doing a better job at taking what they've learned here with them. And that's one thing you need to know about Cody now is, he loves the game, and now he coaches the game, and he coaches it here in Louisiana, where he's from, Ascension Parish, Gonzales,
Perryville, Santa Maula area.
And he's become a huge name over there. I mean, they already knew who he was and his success he's had in his baseball career. And he's got a huge following over there in bringing the Top Velocity methods with him in that area. And that's why I'm excited to have these moments with him, because he's still learning and he's still helping people just like we're helping guys here. And he has his own case studies. Like, he's got a great group of young guys, a lot of high school guys that are having a lot of success. So he's got his own case studies and what's working and what's not working. But for the rest of this podcast, let's dive into what these guys need to do better in their seasons, because it just happens so much. You were just telling me one of your guys comes in, his med balls were like 45, 46, and now they're down to like 41, 42, and you already saw that in his velocity. His velocity's gone down, and it just happens to be he comes back and he does his med balls, and his med balls are down. And I want to make the point that that's why I love the med balls, because when I say med ball throws, these are low arm stress throws. Mm-hmm. So it's in season, you are always battling arm stress, right? So if you can take a med ball and you can throw that and you're not putting a lot of stress on your arm, at the same time too, or what I'm saying, basically the point is that gives you an application to work on your problem. So it's an assessment tool first, meaning like your velo is going down in the game. Unfortunately, you've obviously fallen off the program. Well, you pick up a med ball and you start throwing, you see the velos down in the med balls. Well, you got to understand that there could be a direct correlation there, meaning like, yeah, to sit there and just keep throwing a baseball in season's not going to help you. But if you took the med ball and you start working back your routines and working on all the things you worked on with the med ball, and your med balls go back to 45, 46, what do you think's happening to your velocity? And so therefore your velocity's up, and you did that without adding more stress to your arm. Like, that's the biggest thing. A lot of guys come to me and they're struggling in season. I'm like, are you doing the med balls? Are you doing the med balls?
Nope.
It is probably the best way to help. If not, even if you lose velo doing the med balls, which shouldn't happen, you'll know it because the med balls are going to tell you, and then maybe you're just not lifting. Maybe you've lost your mobility work, So, I mean, elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in season. Of course, be smart with it. I mean, if you go out there and throw 90 pitches as a starter, don't go do med balls the next day. But there's times that we have to do this. As a reliever, I mean, this stuff does not affect you. Like you said, it's low stress. These guys can go out there and do it and have no problems. But working on the drive, there's only so much you can do when you got a 20-pitch bullpen, right? And throwing a baseball. There's just so much you can do where you can go out and do these med ball drills and get a lot of work on your drive. You can feel your lower half. You can feel your upper half counter rotating and staying back. And then if you got a radar gun you can set up just to know where your numbers are, it's a good thing to have. I mean, that's what we use at TopVelocity. I mean, when we run our guys in, some guys' med balls are harder than others, and they don't throw as hard as that guy. Those numbers don't always correlate to how hard you throw, but if your med ball is dropping, you're more likely your fastball is dropping.
Yeah,
and when I watch my guys that I train and I see them down, hey, we need to work. We need to go get some work in. Take one of these with you. Do the drills. The guys, I got to give the guys that I train a lot of credit. These guys, they've worked their butt off. We run it a little different because we run once a week. I don't have the opportunity right now to run these guys 5 times a week like we should, but that's coming very soon. But I give them a lot of credit for the work they put in. Shout out to all my seniors that have signed this year and are going on to play college ball, and now they're getting their education paid for, which is a very important thing in my eyes. Giving them that opportunity to just go to the next level and keep growing. As they grow, they're going to get better and better. The one thing I could tell them is don't stop doing what works. And we've shown that what we're doing is working, and we need to stay on it. The weight room is very important. Mobility, extremely important. The med ball throws, extremely. You can't just pick and choose what you want to do. It's a process. You got to follow the process because it works and it will help these kids.
Because we both played, and we played, you played higher level than me, but I played professionally too. It just, you learn that it is the hardest time to keep your routines going. In season is very tough.
Yes.
So you're going to hear all the excuses. We're always on the road, or, I don't have a lot of time if you're still in school, or because I'm on the road, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the weight room. We know these excuses because we both played at that level to where we had all those challenges. But we knew we had to do a better job in preparing and scheduling to keep our routines going.
Yes.
So what do you tell to these guys when they give you those excuses? I don't have the time, we're on the road, or I don't have the equipment. What do you tell them?
You can figure out ways. You know the process, right? You know the process. As for equipment, the little 2-pound medicine ball we use doesn't take up much room, right?
On your back.
You see my baseball bag. I play in a men's league right now, actually, with Brent, and my baseball bag is the heaviest thing ever because I have all my equipment in my baseball bag that I use.
And he's still sitting low, mid-90s.
Well, 90. I hit 93.
He's going to
about
95
7 times. I'm trying to get back to 5.
So.
No, I tell these guys. When I was playing, sometimes I wasn't able to do some of the lifts. What did I do? I went and got a gym membership so I could go do my lifts that I needed to do that I knew worked for me. And that was our Olympic style lifting. But there's no excuse. You can work on these. You can work on your drives. You don't even need nothing to work on your drives. Get a broomstick, hold it over your head, and work on your drives and say counter rope.
It never can be an excuse, right?
Never.
It
can never be an excuse.
So you're never going to go, okay, I get it, you're right, just don't do it. Like, it's never going to be that
I'm never going to say that. I will never, ever say that.
Because that's your demise when you say that.
And I get it. Schedules are crazy, but I mean, even for a minor league schedule, I mean, that especially low levels, 15-hour bus rides.
On the road.
First off, you're on a 15-hour.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. Then you got a traffic, and your 15-hour turns into a 24-hour trip.
And even in affiliated ball, like where you were at a high level, tell them how bad these stadiums are. A lot of them don't even have weight rooms in them.
No, they don't.
Most of them,
They don't. Yeah. No, you wake up at the hotel, get on a bus or a van, and they take you to the weight room, that's
somewhere off.
But coming through the levels, you're going to play at bad places. And, there's every excuse in the world. But that's like anything in life, right? There's excuses for everything in life, right? That's why I love baseball. Man, baseball to me is the game of life. Mm-hmm. Like, it just, especially if, you're traveling, right?
It's never easy.
Sitting in a chair, sitting on a bus for 5 hours, and you think you can get up and just go warm up. No, you need to take care of your body and then go warm up
and not only
then
that,
get ready.
How bad is your nutrition too? And you can't have excuses there, right? These guys are like, oh, well, they drop us off at Carl's Jr. Well, run across the street to the grocery store. That's what I used to do.
So actually, we heard these excuses a lot, and we gave them a lot to our nutritionists that we had, especially in the minor leagues, and they talked to us, and we're like, well, we just stop at gas stations, and she goes, well, they got beef jerky, and that's a better choice than go and grab that candy bar or that bag of candy, And we're like, you're right. Yeah. Well, the price of beef jerky is too much. We don't get paid enough. They make things called coolers. You can pack your lunch in a cooler and put it on the bus with you. Every excuse you give them, they come right back. But that's just how it is. Excuses, it's just it's just causing you to fail.
But the point is, baseball is going to give you a long list of excuses. Yes. And yes, a lot of problems too is there's that small percentage of guys that are so physically talented. They don't have to have the greatest routines. They don't have to have the greatest nutrition, and they're always moving up. And the problem is everybody wants to chase those guys, and those are the last guys you should chase.
Yeah,
you got to find the guys that don't have it, but they're there with the best routines, they're creative, figuring out ways to not have excuses and to get the shit done. And those are the guys you got to follow. Yes. Because those are the ones that are their routines in daily life is actually affecting how they play. It just wasn't given to them, right?
Yeah, there's so many guys in the game of baseball, from little league, then you get up to high school. Some teams have middle school teams, some schools. Then you get to high school, then you go to college, then you got the minor leagues, and then you got the big leagues where there's only like 1,200 players, something like that, right? So you take all these kids that have all been playing that want to reach this goal, of 1,200 players.
To shove them up there.
And you're just trying to get them up there as quick. But it goes back to like the quicker you can get a routine, the better, man. Some of these great players that I played with over my time, watching their routines, and they didn't go away from it. They stuck with it. Gardner's bullpens were just great to watch. How he had a routine in his bullpen, inside, outside, up and away, up and in, do it with his cutter. He had these routines. Watching throw a 9-inning shutout against us. He's the first person on the field the next day doing dry work. These guys, they get to the field at a certain time. They get in with the trainer every single day. It's just this routine that they follow every time. And it started to help me out because I started developing a routine. Hey, I'm going to get to the field at this time, because we play at this time, because it changes. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my wobble chair. Then I'm going to go to my wedge. Then I have my vibration platform, that I have my certain drills that I did on my vibration platform. Then I did some bands. Then I did my mobility. Then it was time to go on the field. Do our warm up with the team, with the pitchers, the POs as we call them. And then we go into our throwing program. And then the days that I had to do med balls, I went out there before we went to stretch, and I would do my med balls, and then I would come in and go stretch with the team. So, the biggest thing that I want to get across to kids is just, man, developing that routine every time, right?
And that's really what TopVelocity is. At the end of the day, like, what really makes us so good is that we've built out routines that get you to an elite level.
Yes.
And guys that come in here and better assimilate into this system and take these routines with them, because they're all programmed out for them. They take them off season, preseason, end season, and they apply the TopVelocity routines, the TopVelocity methods, the TopVelocity mechanics. They get so much better because, like you said, that's what the guys at the top of the game have done so well to get there. Is they developed really, really good routines to allow their body to peak and be at its optimal self all the time, no matter if they're on the road every weekend, no matter if they're broke. Like they make it
I won't lie though, when you're in the big leagues, it is a lot better. I went from eating peanut butter. Exactly. I went from eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day to the first day in the big leagues, there was a spread of lobster and steak, and I'm like, man, this is where you want to be, you know, like.
But what you had to do to get there,
I had to have this routine because I only had so much to work with, right? Yeah. Then you get there and you're on a plane with reclining seats, and like it's just, you know. But I'm blessed to be able to have played at the highest level, and I you know, I don't regret hanging it up early because I got a 5-year-old son now, and I get to watch him play t-ball, and he's doing awesome right now, and I love watching it. So, but you know, now it's time that I try to give back to these kids and take what I've learned from here at TopVelocity, and not only that, what I've learned from, you know, the experiences that I've had on the road and playing, and let these guys know, you know, what they're getting into and what, you know, what it takes to get there. I train a lot of guys, and like I said, a lot of my seniors that I trained that signed, I mean, these guys, they worked their tail off, and they would come help me with my younger groups. And now it's just time to bring this training method to Ascension Parish full time, and get these kids in a routine at a young age and get them working their way up, so they're not just learning this stuff when they get to high school, you know. Give them the opportunity to build themselves up, their velocity, their command, their health. Yes, especially because you go out there and watch these kids throw so many pitches and they're just all arming it. Well, no wonder we're having all these problems with arms, because these kids are just out there just
because they don't know any better.
They're just throwing a baseball. That's all they're doing. So having this spot to give these kids a place to come get everything they need in one stop, right? Mobility, mechanics, weightlifting, nutrition, pitch development. I mean, everything at this one-stop shop, you know. And I mean, I think that would be the biggest thing, especially in my area. You have it out here. Baseball's an awesome sport out where I'm at. They die for it out there. So it's like we want to make, you know, I want to bring this full time. I mean, a lot of the guys that I've trained, they look forward to the next camp. I want it to be where they can look forward to having a place to come every single day and train, you know, and get better every single day. In season, when they're in the off season, of course, we train different in those 2 times. When I say train different, the intensity of what we do, right? We do med balls a little bit more and heavier lifted. But that brings up another thing, lifting in season, right? You know, we want those heavy lifts for starting pitchers. Even relief pitchers, those heavy lifts should come the day after you pitch. You know, get in there and hit those heavy lifts. You know,
specifically your lower half.
Your lower half.
And that's what we program in. And the reason we do that is because it helps produce more of those growth hormones that will recover everything. Because like a lot of times, after you throw, all that wear and tear is maybe in your hip on your landing leg, up in your lats, up in the back of your shoulder and your elbow, and there's more of it in your smaller muscle groups, and your body isn't as threatened. So it's not really in this like survival mode to recover. So when you go in there and you break all your legs down, you make your core down, then your body says, all right, now we've got to make sure we start healing. And then you start eating a lot of protein, and then all of a sudden your body starts producing more growth hormone. So it's just a great way after throwing to do those heavy lifts to stimulate more healing and growing and hypertrophy. And like you said, then you have more time to recover. I mean, obviously, if you're a relief pitcher, you got to plan that out a little better. But if you're starting pitcher, now you got more time to recover. And then your lifts later in the week can be a little bit lighter, and start more focusing on your skills and your explosive movements, right? But I know you got to get out of here, so I'm glad to have Cody on. I hope this really helps you better understand with obviously the great things Cody did through his career, using these methods, also to how he really showed us how important it is to take these methods into season. We know how hard it is. So if any of y'all have any questions on that and you want to reach out to Cody, I don't even know if you have. Yeah, you have on TopVelocity, you have the TopVelocity Ascension. They can reach out to you that way. You got anything? Oh, you got Twitter? You want to give them their Twitter or no?
I don't even know what the name of it is.
Reach out to them on that.
But on Instagram, on Instagram, you can reach out to me. I don't have a lot of stuff posted on there yet, but you can definitely reach out and I can reply back. If you need
and I'll keep getting them on the more that we can get them over here. But if you want to train with him, he's going to be have his facility down here in Louisiana. You're welcome to go out there and train with Cody, train here, whatever y'all want to do. He brings a lot to the table. Excited to have him on. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or you'd like to suggest someone that should be on the show, let us know. Post them down below, and we'll see you on the next episode.